Hi, hi, all you wonderful people, you sporty people. Welcome to another episode of our Sport On series. This wonderful initiative brought to you by IISM, set up by my dear friends Rasika and Nilesh Kulkarni, a unique pioneering sports institute. And from here, we bring you the special Sport On series where interesting personalities, experienced personalities from the field of sports and sporting events come and share their experiences and their insights. So I'm happy and glad to welcome you all. Hi Kashish, hello Harsh, Akshay, Tista Nautiyal. Amit, good to see you. Welcome back. Amit's one of the core team members at IISM. And what a wonderful job the entire team of IISM is doing this. Thank you for having me host this for you guys. Now it's almost, that we have a very regular set of sports loving and wonderful people who join us every Friday at 6 p.m. In our series of Sport On. Yes, Aditya, all good. Thank you very much. So let's rock and roll. So let's start with episode 4 of our Sport On series. Our guest today, she's an extremely experienced professional. She's currently a sports event consultant, is a former executive vice president and head brand experiences and events at the Star TV network, has been a friend for I think a decade or two plus actually. Let me say a decade lesser because she's as young looking as ever. Let's welcome Lydia Buthello into our chat for today. Lydia, I see you had come in earlier, so if you can send me a request, I'll be happy to get you in a minute. And as Lydia comes here, once again, thank you all of you for joining us in today. It's going to be an interesting an hour. Hi, Lydia.
Hi.
Very good evening.
Good evening to you too.
Welcome to Sport On series.
Thank you so much. It's my honor and pleasure.
No, actually, thank you for being with us today, because you're the veteran in sports.
No,
I'm a passionate sports person.
I'm a baby in sports still learning.
You've been fine, Lydia. So good to see you. I haven't seen you in what? Months now?
Yes, I have been very good. Actually, this is my best time, I think. I've finally stopped traveling and I'm finally seeing my home like I've never seen it before.
True that, because I know of you. You are literally out in some city or the other through the year. The kind of projects you've been doing, you've been a flag bearer from the events management business out there in sports.
Not at all. Not as much as the rest of the gang. Definitely not.
No, but I think it's been quite an experience, right? From the years where it started to where it is now, and and we have a lot of viewers in here. A lot of students are here. Because what IISM is doing is introducing a couple of special PGP courses, and one of them is sports event management. So this is our endeavor to try and get, insights from experienced and veterans like yourself to kind of give them a leeway to what to expect, what's out there. During our times, Lydia, we had no formal course. We had to dive in, like we said.
Yes, and swim with the sharks.
Hi guys, somebody is saying a rock star lady, and I saw a second that Kung Fu Sardar.
Oh my God.
You might know him.
Sardar, yes, of course.
Is that my buddy who was with me during Commonwealth Games?
I think so.
Yeah, so we have friends from the business. In fact, you might know, I think Shushma joined in some time back. Gitika, she's going to join us in as well. She's excited to see us here.
I know, it's so much fun.
Yeah. So this is great fun, and this is new for me, where I've never interacted on social media. I believe it's a first for you as well.
It is my first Insta Live. I've never done this before.
So I think that's the uniqueness we bring. And if Nilesh is listening from IISM, this is what we're talking about, unique experiences.
Absolutely. This is completely overly unique.
But really, thanks once again. So let's dive in and let's give, our viewers and our audience a bit about, where this journey started. Lydia, you started from, I would say, conventional broadcast, right? You were with Channel V, if I remember right, in broadcasting.
That's
and
right.
then event management, and then I think you did talent and celeb relations. Give us
Yes.
a little insight of that start point in your career, when you started.
Well, actually, strangely, I joined Star when I was 18 years old, and I joined as an executive assistant. So it was a very different role that I was doing. But then I went into UTV, where I was in casting and production. That sort of got me into the world of film and TV as such, because we're doing ad films at that point. And then I went
Yeah.
back into Channel V, and Channel V at that point was in a cusp. So there was this period of where people Sophia, Leila, and all of these guys were moving out, and there was a Purab Gaurav and P.R. Rai Chaudhary who were coming in. So that was an interesting time because I was a VJ manager as well. So I landed up doing
Right.
all the auditions, and and then did late night, Midnight Manual, which was with Nina Manuel and shows like that. I was an assistant producer. So it was really a world of, and then we did Channel V live shows across all of India, which was one of a kind, which Jules Fuller and, the rest of the team, like there was like Fountainhead at that time and everybody else were like just, so it gave me a gamut of experience without having to go anywhere else. So Channel V was
Sure.
like a house which almost inculcated all of these people together, and there was so much of talent. And I mean, today all of these guys who were at that time my colleagues have become film directors, and they've done so many films, producers, and it's just fantabulous to see what they're up to.
The universe just opened up, right, for all of us and for you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and that experience is something that you can't get out of books. It's just something that you have to live live, and that was the beauty of Channel V at that point in time. So, yeah, so that was my start point. That sort of it got infused in my blood, and then I knew that this is what I wanted to. So then I did Channel V. Again, I used to produce shows, game shows for Fremantle India, which I did Family Fortunes with Roshan Abbas.
Oh,
Then,
yes.
yes, and then I did Pictionary. Then we did Khulja Simsim with Aman. And then I sort of got back into Channel V again with the Channel V Pop Stars. And that's how my world of production started. So it was one of those where you bring in your experience from your previous, and then suddenly you just come into this world of reality, which is completely different. And it was the first reality show in India, so all of us were novices in that way, and it just like overwhelmed us with what we could have done and what we could do. And then finally we saw what we had done, and the product of it was so brilliant. It just felt so good. So yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. What a journey. In fact, somebody mentioned, I missed who wrote that. What a journey, right from the bottom and right up to where you are right now.
Yeah, right now I'm jobless.
If there are prospective guys out there, they're going to start bidding for you very soon.
I don't mind. Let's begin the auction.
We should bring that out later. Thanks, Saurabh. Some dear friends, Shushma has joined in. Saurabh, thanks, guys, joining in.
Hi, guys.
So Lydia, now coming to the core, what we're discussing is that, right? And then sports happened. So your background from production, producing, when did sports happen in your career path then? And that's where Star came into play, right? Or
That's right. So no, when I was with Star at the time when we took over and created Star Sports, and during that period, I still remember Nitin Kukreja, who was the business head at that point of Star, and he had just become the Star Sports head. And I went up to him and I said that, listen, is there anything that I could do? And he said, we are a broadcaster, so there is nothing much that an event person can do because we're just going there and shooting, right? And then it began with saying that, okay, it doesn't matter, I'll put up a standee even in a press conference. So let's start there. And that's how I started. But the beauty was that Nitin was very inclusive. So when we decided to sort of get into Kabaddi, we just dived into it from even the smallest details. So every bit of research that they had on why Kabaddi is the game that we should invest in, we went through that as well. So it just started from there, and passion for that. And, so you just start from not like just going in there and saying that, okay, let's just create a sport, but it was more of understanding what the product is. Why do you think there should be a belief and passion that that sport is going to do well? That's how we got into it. And then it was just I think slowly, you become part of that, and then it's a different world altogether. It's completely different from the kind of stuff that you've done. And it was, I think, just at the juncture in my life where I felt that I had done enough with events. So it just sort of, catapulted me
Naturally flowed in.
Yeah, and also gave me a little bit of a challenge to sort of prove myself to do something different and see if I can, survive that world. And God was very kind, and I got that opportunity to grow with Star Sports the way it did. And so that's how I managed to sort of, and then slowly we built opportunities to start doing things on ground. So though we were a broadcaster, and the division that we started, which was brand experience and events and Star, never existed in any broadcast company, so it
Right.
was that's how sports happened, actually.
Nice. So you kind of looked out for it, actually, right? As well.
Yes,
Like you
yes,
wanted to jump
yes,
into it. That's the
yes.
interesting part. You wanted that next change, that level, or what else?
Absolutely. So I saw the opportunity when it came in, and I said that let me just dive in. And I'm of the opinion that everything doesn't need to come in big. You start small and then you start going towards it. So it was okay to, just put standees in press conferences for the longest time, but I did that. And we, just to be part of it, to understand it.
You know the foundation, like how during our event days, we've picked up speakers, we've kind of taken the floor, all that.
Literally
Another rock star, yeah, literally swept the floor. Another rock star has just joined us. Your dear friend Pratichi is here. She's saying what a journey. I mean, you guys share such wonderful times as well.
Oh, there's Sunita as well, one of my colleagues.
She built it brick by brick. That's true, absolutely. You're an inspiration to a lot of us out there, and a lot of students listening in. Even if they kind of get a whiff of what you've done, I'm sure we have wonderful sports professionals for the future being set from here.
I hope so, but it's been a tough journey, and it's a nice journey, not yet finished.
Of course, picture abhi baki hai, lots of stuff to go.
Correct.
So with Kabaddi, I mean, we all love cricket and football, the conventional, but stars, and you guys at that time figured out Kabaddi, which is, one of our so-called school-going days. We used to play Kabaddi, and it's a more semi-urban or rural game than an urban game. You all packaged and turned it around.
Yes.
Give us very quickly, what were those thoughts when you tried to make Kabaddi glamorous and urban? And how did you take it around the country?
Well, actually, I think there were a lot of minds that came together, and there was a lot of research that went into it. And I think most of the people who were helming it at that point in time were very clear that it needs to be packaged in a certain way on TV for it to, look good. And Uday, of course, led that thought process for everybody. And then everybody just got down to what can we do to make this big. So I still remember the time that, when we first took over Kabaddi and sort of, started working with the Mashal team, who had at that time just started with Anand Mahindra and Charu Sharma. And we walked into the stadium of NSCI, and it was the first city that Kabaddi was starting. And a night before, we were all like saying, will we have people, who will come to watch the game? And it literally overnight, all of us put our heads together. And one thing we were clear of is that it was not a TV show that we could just hoard people into a bus and put them in and watch. You needed people who were passionate about the sport as well, because you need to see that emotion on TV.
Sure.
So we got in touch with all the Kabaddi, associations across Bombay, provided for buses, made sure that we got them to come and watch the game. And slowly but surely, that sort of built it. And within like 3 days of the game being played, and it is a 5-day city event that normally used to happen. Right. The 4th and 5th day, we didn't need to do much, and it just sort of picked up because the atmosphere that we created also was an important aspect. So that's why fan engagement and entertainment was a big part of what we did. And the kind of atmosphere, the music, the engagement that comes in. So when you walk in, it needs to be a fun place for everybody.
Absolutely. So it's an entertainment experience. It's not just sport, right? Like we say, sportainment now.
Absolutely, because I think one of the things that we miss in India often with lots of sports, but now obviously everybody's educated once you travel the world and you see the sport, is that I think consumer engagement or the consumer experience is much needed, and that makes a big difference to the sport. Even finally going on broadcast, right? So you can do anything what you want on ground and make it look good. But if you don't have the right atmosphere where people
Ambience.
are watching it, and when you see that on TV, when you see people are enjoying the game themselves, you naturally gravitate towards the fact that you can watch the game. And that's how TV viewership also started going up as well. But we've seen that with hockey, where then, it's just empty stadiums. Test matches, if you see, also empty stadiums. Not many people, unless you're a passionate core cricket fan, you're not going to be sitting and watching the whole test match with, such
True.
great interest. So,
True. In fact, that experience on ground, how does it get translated onto broadcast, right? That's the mix you had to create.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty about Star, right? And Star Sports, for them to understand that part, because not every broadcast company understands that part of the importance of that. And I think that's where the rest of the people who have been involved in this, allowing you to sort of go and take it, and there was a risk factor involved as well. Everything just sort of sat well, from including the fact that we got national anthem singers to come in, different sort of
Yes.
people came in, and the kind of it's such a short 45-minute game, and so in between that the breaks are so short. So what do you do that can get the audience engaged at that time? So the entertainment managers needed to go through a training. What can we do? What are the things? And it was obviously a permutation combination, and every city was different. So we had to make sure that we were doing it differently for each city. So it was almost like you couldn't create a Bible and say, okay, here it is, just go and, replicate this. This was like, you had to be on ground. You had to see the reactions. One day could be up and next day could be down.
It could dip, yeah. So the challenge of customization, right? It's no one single template. How do you customize each city and each audience who's there? Yeah.
Absolutely. And it needs, a little bit of the understanding of the audience and the music and the, so what song can be very famous in Bombay can just probably fall completely flat in like Calcutta, So it's
True,
just,
yeah.
one of
But
those.
I do remember one thing. I remember Pratiji was the best national anthem singer. So there you go. Yeah.
Sarosh is joining. Oh my God, this is not going to look good to me.
So period. She's the best singer. Yeah. Not just the national anthem. Yeah. You are really a rock star. So moving a little offline from where it is, sports. Have you ever played professional sport, or have you loved sports in any way? I mean, during.
No, when I was a child, I ran for my school, and I played shot put and a little bit of, I was one of those people who dabbled in a lot of things, but pretty much at home, we used to play Lagori. I don't know if you know what Lagori is, where you throw the ball.
How can I have not played? I'm a Kalina village boy. So Lagori and Abadubi.
Cricket, badminton, and those were the games that we used to, we were perpetually kids. Obviously, we didn't have all of this before, so it was almost outdoor all the time, jumping buildings, doing all of that. So that way I was quite sporty. And no, not professionally gone into any sport because my health sort of gave in and then I had to stop running. So post that, it was just been jumping buildings and beating up boys.
Yeah, that's what somebody just said, jumping buildings, right? I mean, you had enough to kind of beat around, right?
Yeah,
running city to city, various teams. I know for few who have worked with you very closely as well, right? Craig, he speaks so highly about you, right? And so many more.
Our entertainment manager for a really long time, actually. Both on
In fact,
IISM and Kabaddi.
Yeah, in fact, Garrett is a common friend and he tells me about his working experiences with you. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes.
So I believe a lot of students have also kind of worked with you and in your team on projects, right? I believe even IISM, a few students have worked with you and, they were very excited when they heard that you're coming on this session.
Yeah.
I think some names which I remember, Abhimanyu, Apuva, these are names I got to know from the IISM team.
Yes. In fact, one of the things that we started in Star at that time was that we said that why don't we start getting in interns to sort of come in and experience 3 months of a project and work with us. And we were trying to sort of, just get them to get the atmosphere before they jump into it completely and understand the hard work that exists, because sometimes it looks very glamorous, but it isn't. And so,
it's like how they say, "Hame production karna hai." That's a classic way.
Yeah. I want to be creative. So people don't understand what creative means. Creative is a whole gamut of production, everything that is, I mean, if you do not understand production, being creative doesn't really help. You know, you need to have a mix of both, because otherwise you can build this fantasy world and it can never ever come to light.
True.
So yes, so that sort of, I mean, I worked with a lot of the kids and they've been lovely actually. I've had some really good talent come in and we sort of took them on board to work with us until, of course, we ran out of headcounts. So I've tried every trick in the book to keep extending their internship. But it was a good one. I mean, most of the kids have been wonderful. In fact, not most, all the kids have been great finds.
That's fabulous. So it's a fantastic grooming setup, right? I mean, they're getting theory knowledge out in their classrooms. And today, I think a lot of institutes are out there. Some of them are kind of really customizing their syllabus. And then you give them the practical training. And
absolutely.
Star Network.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer of practicality. I mean, books and theory and a lot of things, yes, necessary. But at the same time, I think I would give 50% on practicals more than anything else, you know, if not more actually.
Get your hands dirty, get onto the ground. I think, yeah, there's nothing better, no better learning.
That can prepare you that like through live event.
So you actually had your hands full, or your what do you call your schedule completely haywire, right? Because when what started with Kabaddi, then it happened ISL, and then of course the mother of all, IPL. So just lead us in from the Kabaddi league experience, and then ISL came to you. What happened to your life or to your team?
My team, actually, one of the good things that we did was we sort of bifurcated the team after a point in time when we realized that it was just getting relentless. It got relentless for me because I had to be there pretty much in most places. Then it got to a point where we even overlapped between Kabaddi and ISL at a point where, you know,
Yeah.
Then I had serious issues with people complaining that you're there and you're not here and you're there and you're not here. So both thought I was in both places. I was neither. So I was in the office trying to sort out things. But
You need a holographic image. Sorry, I'm just butting in. We need 3 Lydias at the same time in different cities.
It was really funny, but yes, in fact, you know, like I said, I moved into this house about 2.5 years back, and 2 years of, I think I must have stayed in this house for not more than 60 days. That's how my life was, because I was on the road pretty much. And sport largely part of the portfolio actually. And
right.
Just so that's why this 3 months are like I'm spending all the time that I can and be at home. It turned life around because you had to switch from a different sport to from an indoor sport to an outdoor. And to be fair, IPL we didn't really do much because we were more involved in the opening ceremony and then the brand experience piece that we did with IPL. So that was a different ballgame altogether. Sure. And ticketing is something also that I handled with Star, and trust me, it was quite a nightmare. And you know, sometimes you wonder why is a broadcast company having a department like ticketing. And we sort of centralized buying of ticketing and distribution of ticketing. So that came onto my head, and it was a nightmare, including Uday and Sanjay would just blame it on me if they didn't have tickets to give everybody. Like, Lydia is not giving.
So that's interesting, because I didn't really know about this. So the ticketing, so the audience who comes into the stadiums was under your purview as well.
No, not the audience who came into the stadium. So Star Sports had, you know, a quota that they would get as a broadcaster for a number of tickets. But outside of that, there used to be also tickets that we would buy for, you know,
brands.
Because we used to have contracts with advertisers, and there used to be an X amount of tickets that we would give. And nothing with a network like Star, it's humongous, right? So no amount.
Who do you say no to? Who do you say no to?
And it's also such a vast network that you need, each business would want for their, you know, particular sponsor to give a ticket. And it was not like it was contractual. It was not like we were giving complimentary tickets just for the sake of giving, but just consolidated buying, making sure that that was distributed properly, and then employees to, you know, we were very involved in the employee experience of it as well.
Sure.
So, you know, employees who are working on the game and then wanting to go, or their families wanting to go. So just
family, friends, well-wishers, they all would call in, right?
Yes,
and Kabaddi had reached that stage. I remember, you know, a friend of mine, Mumba, Supratik, very dear friend.
Yes.
I remember calling in and he said, I have no passes to give. Imagine Kabaddi reached that year 1, year 2. So
absolutely, we had to buy tickets. That's the situation, that came in. Like, imagine you own the league and you have to buy the tickets to get, so that's how life was. Yeah.
So that shows the success of the league, or success of the sport. So that's a good one. In fact, let me lead you to the other side. When you said ceremonies, I mean, and you are the lead of it, right? Whether it's the opening ceremony for PKL or ISL. ISL, you did some brilliant opening ceremonies.
Yes. Very
Give
good
us a
time.
little, give us a little insight of how would you go about with that process. I'm sure a few of our professionals,
Yeah.
but even from a student's point, if they can get a fair idea of how you go about with that.
So, I had a very core small team. Actually, we weren't a big team. It was not more than 2 or 3 people who used to work on ceremonies with me. And we were very clear about the fact that we wanted to do something different every year. So it started with a pitch with, different agencies, which we had to do. And, we would go with at least, and of course, Mrs. Ambani was equally, involved and very detail oriented with what she wanted as well. So what we would do is we would take the pitch, go through it over and over again until we were clear that these are the shortlisted agencies, and then do a presentation with her, and then sort of go with the agency that we wanted to work with. At least 60% of what we wanted was there.
Sure.
And then the rest, 40%, we got in and we worked as a team together. And most of the people that I've worked with, I'm sure will tell you that they must be hating us for that. But we used to get into, we were like literally there with our hands and legs dirty and on ground, poking our noses everywhere and trying to get it right. But it was a joint effort for all of us to sort of, make the dream come true. So every time we tried to do something different. And it was a very difficult task because we had to play on the same ground, after, in just like 45 minutes later, the game had to start. And so, which meant that there were so many restrictions with that game at play. And that was more important than the ceremony by itself, right? But you still wanted the ceremony. And it couldn't be any hogwash of a ceremony. It had to be
Of course.
stable, it had to be of a certain kind. So I think the amount of research that couple of us, and I don't know if Sarosh is here, he was part of my team at that time as well. And, the amount of research that we've done for the weight on the grass to the ground, and when rain comes in, and the density of this, grass and the sponge and the glue, and I mean that kind of research, I don't think so any of us would have gotten through. And it's just crazy. Today I can talk about any ground very easily because I've gone through that.
You've gone to the detail of it.
That's right. I mean, there's like grass getting burnt in the middle of the night, and you're like wondering why is it getting burnt? Because we've done everything possible to, ensure it's not. And then it was almost close to like the ceremony is not going to happen because the grass is getting burnt. And then we realized that somewhere between the sponge and the the pole, there was some glue, which actually the glue burnt the grass. So it's just
Ouch.
a process of so many learnings that we've had, and and then to bring in a stage in the middle of the pitch, which is the biggest thing, and right the center is such a heart of football, right? You don't want to have anything going wrong with that grass there.
Because that's your core, right? The sport is the core. The game is the most important.
And then the kind of research that we did, and that time we got, the super, what do you call them? Super rollers that, cricket used to use to mop up
the ground from rainwater, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, that time we worked with Showtime, and then we created those and got the stage in on that, so that there was just equal distribution of weight. There was water absorption. There was everything, so that nothing actually... there were so many things. The next year there was with this craft, we got styrofoam, and, the styrofoam stage came up, and there were so many things that we've tried, from including like trying to cover the grass with, different types of nets, and how will the grass breathe. And so the ceremony was not just Bollywood artists and so people don't realize the amount of work that went in the back end to even have one dancer on that grass.
On the grass, yeah. Or that stage going in, or even putting a ply.
We used to negotiate with the pitch keeper about saying 500, 200, and these were about 500 people, 200 people. No, 300. No, you can't get more than this one, and we have to be in this area. So it used to be that, and then to work with that. Finally, what you bring to the table is, after all of those negotiations, then you come to a point and say, this is what we have, and this is what we have to play with. And then you come to a product which comes out as a ceremony. and people just see that on TV. That's it, and they don't know the months of
What has gone behind?
Absolutely none. I mean,
You know, they'll be as brutal as say, "Hey, maza nahi aaya. Oh, that act could have been better," not knowing what goes behind it.
Absolutely.
Vis-a-vis a conventional awards night, you know, it is just an awards night. Here, the opening ceremony is just a part of the main game to follow, but yet you got to produce a world-class package.
Absolutely, and if you know, the funny thing is that anything can go wrong, and last year everything that could go wrong happened because we were in Kerala. It rained. And
This was ISL?
Yes, and it started raining in the middle of the ceremony. And we had Dulkar who got stuck in the rain and didn't turn up. He was starting the ceremony, so I had to immediately replace him with somebody else.
Another act.
So it's just, you know, it's like, that's the difference between regular and, you know, live events like this. You can't control anything, and you have to be so prepared, and you have to be so acutely aware of what can go, what can you correct as you go live, right? I mean, there's nothing that you can change much, but you have to play with everything, and there's no second take for us, right? So,
absolutely, like a live event and a sports event. So that's what is sports, right? That one take you get. So the prelude to the sport is that.
And you don't know the result. You don't know.
Yeah.
So that's the funny part.
Give it your best. You do that final prayer to the master event manager, the Almighty, and say, "Lord, be with us."
Yes, absolutely. A prayer upwards and say that, please help us.
You know, some more dear friends have joined in. I think Tanaz, you remember Tanaz? She's in.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, Rakshit's in. A dear friend Pranav. I don't know if you worked with Pranav. He's the bar solutions man. Every event, you have to have the bar on the side.
Pranav is my guy.
He's been part of super music festivals as well. I'm sure he's been part of your events. So this is good. You know, you be having professionals in as well who've been part of this journey, who have been part of productions like Tanaz and Rakshit, and Pranav, of course, has been as a great collaborator. Now I want to say this: between a Mrs. A, Mrs. Ambani, and a Miss B, yourself, and you have to balance the act, right? She has expectations of the world, right? She's seeing the biggest events in the world. And then you have Indian agencies. And of course, I would like to believe we are on par with most global companies as far as ideation is concerned. How do you end up shortlisting versus, you know, great creative, versus an execution capability versus a budget?
Yeah.
2 or 3 key factors. What leads you to shortlist that agency? And I'm sure a lot of our colleagues out there might want to know as well.
Well, it's a difficult task, to be honest, but I think a little bit of my experience comes into play in this, because thankfully I have been on both sides. I have been on the TV side as well, so I've done live TV award shows like Zee Awards, many times, where there again it's live. Though you know everybody, all the actors and everybody who plays the part is there, but it's So I have actually worked with a lot of agencies over a period of time, and you sort of know their strengths, and more than anything else, I think it's not this. You know, I always say this, and I used to say this to my team at Star, most of my teams actually, is that any place is built with the people that there are. So often, you know, a company's name can be there, but if the right people who are working below that are not there. So one of the things that I used to ask for often when we had pitches was, who are the people behind the scenes, right?
That's a nice one.
So we used to always ask, who's the creative director, who's going to handle production, who's going to do all of this. So automatically then you know that the people that you're working with, there is a certain level of, and also when you meet them during the pitch, you know how much of the understanding of what they have. And largely, sometimes there used to be a lot of agencies who used to come with great ideas, but again, missing the core point of it all was that it's a game that's going to start in 45 minutes, so there is no chance of us turning it around. While I would have loved to do that sort of a ceremony outside of the game and, you know, keep it in.
If it was only a ceremony event that day, then it's a great thing to do.
So after, you know, so for me, it makes a big difference that people are not reading the brief as they need to, because that itself is a big giveaway for me at that point in time. Because if they're bringing unrealistic...
Somebody's just said that, Smitha. Yeah, she just kind of cued you in. Pay attention to the details, right?
That's my team, all of them.
Yeah, they really miss you, Lydia, you know.
Yeah.
Hi, Smita.
Hi guys, hi Christina and Vineet and Smita, all of these guys. Yeah, so they know. I mean, like I have driven them nuts with the fact that how could if you don't read and you don't pay attention to that aspect, then you automatically know that you're not giving a shit about the game. So we needed agencies who were very clear and understanding of that there's a game, to respect that, and then
Sure.
everything came into play. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer that we should do something different, but unrealistic creatives are not something that I'm a big fan of. So when people say that ceiling pe ye karenge, wo karenge, and the event is in 2 days, for fuck's sake, I mean, like, sorry.
Go for it.
How are you expecting that to happen? I mean,
Yeah.
like,
How are we going to have, we're going to get people fly from one part of the stadium to the other, right? And
we've done that. We've tried that as well. And trust me, I mean, like, so I'm a little, I'm a little conservative that way, but at the same time, I'm also a big risk taker on certain things which I believe that we can pull off
Sure.
and do things. So I know, I think over a period of time, and that's the part that I used to always tell agencies, that after you do 3 or 4 ceremonies and you've done it in different places, you already know what doesn't work. So when we part that knowledge to them, and if they don't take cognizance of the fact that, these are things, and this is like, no, and it's also a lot of people I have realized do that with themselves, is that मैं करूँगा तो हो जाएगा, like
right.
तुमने किया होगा, लेकिन जब मैं करूँगा तो हो जाएगा. So that sort of makes me feel that, boss, I mean, like, there's a reason why somebody, it's like how parents used to tell us, right? I mean, we used to not listen to them, but, because of their years of experience, they're parting some knowledge.
They're telling us that, yeah, true.
Yeah, now when we're older, we realize, why they said what they said. But it's similar to that. But often with my kids, most of the time I said that, you need to let go and burn a little as well, because only then you realize the difference. So a lot of times I've let them burn, because when it's not making much of a difference, but at least you learn, that's how I have learned, so
Absolutely.
I believe that, like, it's like you tell a small baby and you say, don't go and touch that switch, don't go, and the baby is going to go.
They'll do exactly that.
And ultimately, when they get burnt and they hurt themselves, is only when they realize that they're not supposed to do it, right? And
they'll remember that, right? Yeah.
So no matter how much you tell people, it's human nature. I think sometimes people just go and do the things that they
You know what? I just realized, and this is again from our experience, I'm sure you had, we remember the failures more than the success, right?
Absolutely.
Those mistakes we do will remind us next time, and hopefully that's what learning is, so that you don't repeat it again.
Absolutely. And it's like Tanaz is saying, learning never ends. For me, I have learned with even the smallest of events, even after doing these big ceremonies, and the smallest one, there are things that, you learn from. And there are so many things that you can learn from the kids that come to work with you as well. It's just amazing what they can bring to the table, their new way of thinking.
Oh,
and
I love it.
Yeah, and we are such, because we are so used to old school. So I had a team which was old school and young. So it was to bring in that marriage of balance. It was the best of both worlds, actually, and it was just perfect.
I've always loved this. The mix of the experience we've had in the last couple of decades and the energy the new tribe brings in. They might be 6 months in the business, but the enthusiasm and the energy they bring in, it always excites me when I work with both sides.
Yeah, and they question everything. So when they question, you also sometimes rethink and say, okay, why am I saying this? Maybe there's a different way to do this. I mean, like, probably there are other things, and I've learned so much from these kids. It's just amazing. Some of the brightest minds, actually, and of course they also see you and they watch and they try to, emulate sometimes, and it goes the wrong way, but it does.
Right, yeah. In fact, I'm just going to pick a question. I think somebody earlier, I think if it was Aditi, if I picked that up, saying that where do we start with event management, how do we start? So I think this is exactly what we're trying to say, Aditi, is that a balance of theory. If you can sign up to an institute, whether it's mainstream event management or whether it's a particular specialization like sports event management, go to the institutes like what IISM has to offer, and then you will get a fair balance of what they teach you in terms of learnings or theory, and what you'll get when you kind of intern or work with personalities like Lydia. She has so much experience out there. Pick that up. I don't know if it was Ashwin live who says there are legends here, right? I think Ashwin's here, who's probably worked with you as well. He's been a master stage manager, flow manager for me, and he's done a lot of IPs with me as well.
Yes.
So
No, there's
Lydia, sorry, go ahead.
Sonia. Hi,
Ah,
Sonia.
that's nice.
All these are my Channel V colleagues, and now she's with. We work together on TED. She's an amazing producer.
See, those I haven't seen you in 3 months are now seeing you live, and I'm sure
Not
this
only
is
3 months, I think much more than that. Most of the people.
lovely. I'm
Nice.
glad I could bring that to you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So Lydia,
Thank
moving to a little different turf, because
Yeah.
as you realize, time's flying, and unfortunately, Instagram gives us only 60 minutes. We could chat
Yes.
for 2 hours and more. I'm going to call you up after this for our own chat.
Okay. Oh, I didn't realize it's 40 minutes already.
Yeah, this is the fun about it. It's in
Yeah.
moving a turf across, right? And you are somebody who's worked or seen a lot of international productions. You've gone out there on behalf of the organization, and you've done everything possible in our country, right? The biggest productions. How would you rate, or what would you say your experience of watching what's happening globally versus what we've done in India? Any thoughts on that or insights on that?
So I've been really lucky because I've even managed to work in different countries. So because of Zee Cine Awards, I did work in London, Mauritius. Went to China and worked in Shanghai and Beijing and the US. So I've seen different styles of working with people, and Singapore specifically, where we created a couple of IPs for Zee. And with Star, I led a property called Star Parivar Awards that we did in London for 3 years consecutively with Wembley Stadium, and it was a completely sold out property. So one thing is very clear: different countries obviously have different rules, but their professionalism is a very different nature. The one thing that India has is that kar lenge, ho jayega, and that sort of and overnight you can change sets you can change locations to I have a opening ceremony within 5 days. We've moved cities, literally. So that is not possible anywhere outside in the world because they're all planners. They're all very clearly, time related in every manner. So while they may be, some of them are very passionate. I've met some really amazing people, but they're also very clear about their boundaries about work. So if it's a shift of 12 hours, then it is 12 hours, and the dot of that 12 hour, they're out of the door, and you can be in the middle of rehearsal, you can be in the middle of anything.
They'll shut you down.
You're done. So what brings that, and I'm sure many people here have worked on IFA and various other properties. What brings about a change in people like us that time is to plan better. And you automatically then start knowing that you value time a little bit more, and you start not dilly-dallying, and you start saying that, okay, if we have 12 hours, then what are the things that we need to do, and make sure that
and you work backwards, and then you work backwards.
So that brings a bit of diligence in the sense of working. And of course there is budgets, right? Anything that goes, and now they became smarter over a period of time. They said, okay, fine, I can stay a minute longer, but you pay me $100 more. So it just started getting to a point where saying that you have only so much money, and you have to make sure that you have to bring about a great product, and at the same time live with the fact that these are the hours that you need to bring in. So I think we are, as Indians, I believe that we are very adaptable, so we can adapt anywhere that we go, as long as we are clear that this is what we want to bring out from these people. So that's the difference. The difference is that they're no nonsense people. They're just very clear about, and they value time. So they believe that time is of essence. And I've seen some, amazing setups being done within like 6 hours, and it's all modular. Unfortunately, in India, we've just not been able to bring that into play because we so love our labor, we so love our, and there are so many people who just do multiple jobs. They're like lighting, they're also rigging, and they're also, setting up their truss. So here we have like one truss guy, one light guy, one,
they're all over the place, right? Yeah, in that sense.
Yeah. So it's also, I guess, people, but the advantages of India and being Indian is 100-fold, I would say.
I must tell you a small experience I had. I did a gig at Wembley Arena, the Wembley Arena, and this was
Yes,
like some
yes.
15 years back. And they gave us just one day before setup, right? So they are by the book, like you rightly said. They follow the time and out you go.
Yeah.
But because the way we are, we push that envelope. By the end of the event, those guys were actually saluting us. You guys are crazy. How do you work so hard?
Absolutely. And it's just so amazing what you're saying that people, I remember even with ISL, and we had a lot of people who have come from different parts of the world, from IMG and stuff like that. And they started with saying it's never going to happen. I mean, this is just not possible. And
Right.
now those are the same people who will say that anything is possible.
Absolutely.
Anything is possible.
So now I'd like you to give a little personal. I mean, you have given us a few insights, for all aspiring sporting event professionals or students who want to. When did you get your calling of event management or sports, and how should they kind of figure this out? That is this the career path? A quick in that.
So I'll just give you a little bit of a background on. So while I was studying, I wanted to be an electronic engineer, and
Lovely.
I have OCD as a problem, and I am a sort of a geek when it comes to Excel. I love Excel. I have learned it on my own, and I have I can work on Excel days and days. I hate Word. So
I'll also ask your team that.
yeah,
How they love
they
it.
know that. So, and then the situation was such that I started sort of managing my life very acutely. When you have less money, you have to make your Excel sheets and budget your life. So that's how it started. And then I got into that organization mode. So the turning point for me was when I did Channel V Pop Stars as a production manager, because before I was always on the TV, on the direction side of it.
Broadcast, yeah.
And so production was a different world, but that was project management. And that was where I excelled, because for me, it was the whole gamut of things, of managing everything and, having to look at it as a whole. So that part of it sort of drove me into, probably saying that, okay, maybe this is what I would like to do, which has got everything from TV to, ground as well. And then went on to do Z-Cine Awards. So that sort of gave me a bigger gamut of things, and the live gave you a bigger high. So automatically I knew that this is what I want to do as a career, events. Sports was then the next level, because you can always choreograph an event, and it's very safe, I would say, until you get into sports, you don't realize how safe events are. Before that, you always think that events are like, oh my God,
the toughest thing to do.
Nothing compared to what
sports events is.
Yeah. So that sort of, but the experience in events gives you catapult into sports. So I am a big believer of nitty-gritties and attention to details, like I said. So you need to know the smallest of details, because nobody can take me for a ride, so both be it television or be it on the side of, events, knowing the knowledge of it's much more important. So because I've been in production, I've been on video edits, I have been on, shoots. And
you've done talent relations, you've done ceremonies,
managed talent and people and so on. So it just sort of came together for me as a whole package,
Sure.
And then it was easy for me to sort of deal with everything. But to answer your question precisely, I think it's important for people to start understanding the sport also, what goes into the sport and the back end of it. It's not only being passionate about our sport, it's about the back end of learning, and just because you want to go and say probably handle talent, it doesn't mean that you don't know what sports management is all about. Some people do the mistake of going and specializing only in one aspect and not understanding the rest of it. It's important to sort of get a gamut of things to go into, and then say this is what I want to specialize in. Until you sort of experience all of those parts, you will not realize what is it that you want to do, because then boredom sets in.
Yeah, like somebody just said, I missed the name, super boss lady Lydia. So you really know it all.
No, not at all. Trust me, I don't. I learn every day.
Tanaz has just said super experiential knowledge domain, Lydia. So, But I've said this, when people ask me what is event management, the definition, it's actually a lot of common sense. And then you need to know crisis management. It's like a pilot in an aircraft, right? You hit the right buttons and your flight is off. The true test of a pilot is in case, God forbid, there's a crisis.
That's
So,
true. That's
and something else, which you said, engineering, right? Event management is about art, science, and commerce. Like you said, the grass, the
It's
electronics.
yeah. It just sort of breaks it down. I mean, I believe that a lot of people say that sometimes look at the Uber level and look at it from the top. As long as you've delegated and it's done. I always used to tell my team this, that please get into the details, because the next time your team is doing something wrong, you automatically get it. So one of the things that used to be a joke, and I think some of them who are there will say this, is that they would work on a budget for hours and hours and hours, and they would come in and I would just open the Excel sheet and I would say, that's a mistake there. And they would no, we've checked it, we've done all of this and whatever. And then I'm like, no, there's a mistake. And I'm like, how do you do this? I was like, it's just, but it's just natural, because it just sort of instinctively.
You're cued in, right? Yeah, you go in, to watch what is probably not right rather than what is already going right.
Yeah, you just sort of, you just go into it. I mean, and it just, I can't explain it, but it's just one of those things. But that's also because it's attention to detail, I'm such an integrity person. It took me a long while to actually step back and sort of delegate to people. And, my team knows this. They used to be feeling okay, come on, I used to be at every event and every place in the first few years. And until I realized that I need to sort of let go a little bit and, trust in them and slowly step back a little bit.
True that. I think somebody, I don't know if you know somebody called Simon Gray there. He said you definitely don't have OCD. So that's a friend of yours?
Simon, you know me well, and don't lie.
So I'm assuming Simon's logged in from somewhere in the world, right? He's not in India.
Simon's in London. He's logged in from London, and he's a very good football coach, by the way.
Lovely. Yeah. No, we actually get a lot of people from out. I have a couple of college mates who log in from Australia and a couple of cousins from Dubai. So we do have a global audience who's listening in, Lydia, and some great knowledge coming out. Some great knowledge.
Yeah.
Hi, Saurabh. Saurabh has joined in, and there was a question which will take. Ashwin is here. Top 10 tips for production, execution, project management. Please summing up this live. Okay, top 10 tips will take a while, Ashwin, but yeah. I think Lydia has kind of given a lot of stuff in here. We are actually heading to our last lap, our last 5-10 minutes, Lydia. So I'm going to try and pick a couple of questions which came from students,
Okay.
Like how important is it to kind of, and we've kind of spoken and shared this before, how important is it to go to an institute to pursue a career in sports, or is it fine? You just jump in, join a company or work with somebody like you? How important is formal education?
I think both are necessary. So it's a little difficult for me to answer this question, because personally I've not had any formal education in this realm or this, specific genre, both events or in television or in any manner.
Let me step in 1 year. Let me tell them we didn't have 20 years back or 15 years back, right?
That's right. But, today, because sport has become such a large aspect of it, and there is so many, arrays or so many different paths that one could take. I think it is important to have that education, so the theory of it all sort of comes into play, and you come in armed with some information rather than going ground up.
Sure.
But if you want to come into places like this, yes, ground up is important. So you need to start low. Education, yes. Then you coming armed with that education of knowing the sport management, of knowing all of these things is always better. It's any knowledge of what you've read always
sure.
comes in. So much of what you've educated yourself with makes a big difference. So I'm a believer that both work. But, since I haven't done it, I can't say that you must study and you must do this, because it's not fair. And, so hence I can't say that really.
But that's fair enough. Okay, now we're going to go to something which is fun before we kind of...
Gia, stop. She's just going on.
Gia, dhak. Okay, she's really got it going. You're the super boss.
So Gia, by the way, I must tell you about Gia. Gia has been, used to work with me in Z. and has actually went on to become a comedian, and she's a comedian, and she's a boss comedian right now, and she just went. Yeah. She's
So
absolutely.
I'm sure she's killing it with the whole digital domain out there, right? Where
all figuring out what to do, and she's actively up there. So Gia, we're going to look out for you. Okay, I'm going to do a quick fire, like a top 3 questions for you, right? Before we kind of wrap this up. We have like, I think 4 minutes to go. See how time has flown, Lydia.
No.
It's as good as a kabaddi match almost, right? During this. So you somebody who's traveled across the country as well, right? Beyond global. You traveled from what? Chandigarh to Chennai, Gujarat to Guwahati, at top down. Which is your favorite stadium from a sporting event management point of view?
It's a difficult one to answer. There are many actually, but if you ask me, the one that hits me on the top of my head is Kerala, for 2 reasons only. One, actually more, but mainly it's the vibe of the stadium. The stadium literally shakes. You don't know when it's going to fall because that's how many people are there. It's yellow. It's the vibe of that stadium, no matter what, just doesn't change. It's also the most difficult stadium to work with as well, because it's got no compound, it's got no spaces. So even when we did the ceremonies, it was the worst place to work in, but it's all, and that's the beauty about that stadium, because when it's not the infrastructure, but it's just the way it
is set up. Is this, is this the Kochi stadium or is it the Trivandrum stadium?
The Kochi stadium.
The Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. I've been there. Yeah.
That's right.
And just on cue, Mr. Warren D'Souza joins in, who must have worked there many a time with you.
Hi, Warren.
To figure out audio there, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so good. That's a nice intro. So I'm happy. It's the land I come from, right? God's own country, Kerala.
I like it.
Question 2. Which city has given the best fan experience? And that's something you have really pursued, right, amongst all of us. How to create that fan experience for the audience. Which city has given you that satisfaction? Wow, this is a great fan experience.
I could say that it's Kerala, Goa, Guwahati. These are at least in with the ISL football at least. And with kabaddi, we've had like really amazing experiences in different places. I mean, you can't explain it. Bombay has been also great. Equally, places that you don't expect it to be fabulous. Like Kolkata sometimes. So it's very difficult to say it because each one had a different, lens that we were playing with. But my big high has been Kerala again, like the reason why, because those fans are just something else. Yes.
Passionate and over the top, right? Backing the team. But like you rightly said, I think I would give it even to Goa, to the Northeast. I've been there with John's team for the Northeast football, Northeast United. Yeah. So great. Third question, and then we're running. And it's a quick one. And I know this is going to be a tough one. PKL or ISL? Pick your favorite.
Both. Both.
I didn't even say IPL, right? I gave you just 2 instead of 3.
No. Both are ones that I've been there from inception, so it's very difficult to choose. Both are my favorites.
How do you choose between your 2 babies, right? Truly that, yeah. But Lydia, it's been so much fun. How time has flown. Gitika has joined in, and she's all love. Yeah, Shushma is here. So I think they've all had a great time. Amit sir, thank you very much. Can you invite Lydia to ISM on our behalf? Okay, Lydia. ISM the campus.
I'd love to.
In fact, I must tell Amit, the chat we had, that you would want to be part of more teaching. Like you said, you like to kind of share your insights with the young audience. So it's going to be great for us to be able to chat.
Thank you so much, guys.
So one last one, my very dearest colleague Nitin is online. He says one event which you will always remember, which comes to your mind. So we can close with that last question.
Wow. One event that would actually, the reason why that event is big for me is because it was one of my biggest events that happened. It was the Channel V Popstars Viva Live, that the final concert that happened in Delhi.
So sorry, I'm going to kind of run this because we have 15 seconds to go. So I'm going to pick that up. I remember that. So thank you so much, Lydia, once again. This was brilliant. See, this is what it is. We'll have to continue and we'll come back for a session live. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look forward to next Friday.